everyone, I'm here today with my co-host to do a kind of pseudo vlog. I don't know that it's going to be a traditional reading vlog where I take you around with me to my life all week, but I run into an issue that needs handling, and I'm using this as an accountability tactic. Most of my friends know this about me, but I get a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs with my reading, and I just get excited and scatterbrained, and I read multiple books at once, which isn't too crazy of a concept. There are a lot of people who are reading 2 to 3 things at once. I'd say that's pretty standard for me. Right now, I'm actively reading 8 books,
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
which that's a lot of books to read at the same time. My goal for this video is to essentially clear my roster. I think I've been in a little bit of a rut because I haven't been finishing things because I'm in the middle of 8 things. And so I want to use this video to take a week to get through things so that I can move on to new books. I also have multiple book club books I need to start that I don't have time to start because I'm in the middle of 8 things already. So I'm going to take you with me as I try to get through my various reads. Let's just kind of dive right in and do a check on what books am I in the middle of? How far am I into them? And what is our game plan? Let's all put our heads together and figure out how I'm going to get out of this pickle that I willingly put myself in. First book that I'm in the middle of is book 2 of a series. Book 1 I read last year, and it was a 5-star read. That was the beloved Assassin's Apprentice. As you can see, I had a lot of fun. I was very invested in this book, and I knew that I was going to want to read book 2. But I am in the middle right now of Royal Assassin. I'm on page 250 of 600 some, which is 39%. Royal Assassin follows our main character, Fitz. He is the bastard son of the king in waiting. Again, I can't say too much because this is a sequel, but you can guess from the title of book 1 and book 2, Fitz ends up getting trained as an assassin to the king. We had some political and kind of magical developments at the end of book 1. So book 2 picks up right where that leaves off, and we follow Fitz through more of the story. I really like him so far in this book. I'm a big Fitz fan. He's a big yearner, big romantic in this book, which has been really fun to see. We see him come into his own more and more. Obviously, he's a character that we're going to see grow across a lot of books. But I feel like he's starting to realize things.
Like the year of just realizing stuff, and everyone around me were all just like realizing things.
If I had to set a goal for this book, I would say I want to get to maybe the 400 page mark, so that I only have 200 pages left. Since that one's pretty hefty, I'm not going to put as much pressure on it to fully finish it. Let's move on to the next book. So this one I started when I was in Ireland, with my family. I really wanted to read books by Irish authors while I was there, and so I got this one secondhand in Maine last year, and I was like, perfect. It's a literary book. It's won the Man Booker Prize. It takes place in Ireland, and that is Milkman by Anna Burns. In an unnamed city, Middle Sister stands out for the wrong reasons. We don't know the exact location this takes place. None of the characters have names. Any references to politics or religion or stances on things are all very vague. It's either this religion or that religion, my religion or your religion. Same thing goes for political stances. We are watching our main character, Middle Sister, navigate who she wants to be and not really wanting to decide who she wants to be yet. Meanwhile, around her, politics and social tension is building and rising. She begins to, she's kind of getting stalked, hit on by this much older man who we only know as the Milkman, who we're led to believe maybe making some waves as a bit of a rebellious figure against politics. So he's kind of a dangerous man to be associated with. And doesn't she's not associated with him. She's never sought him out. He just follows her around places, and people in town are like, "Oh, so you're dating him?" And she's like, I literally don't know him. This is a really interesting book so far, and the reason I've been reading it since mid-June is because it's one of these books where I can read 10 to 20 pages at a time, and then my brain feels like it's swimming. But it's not one that I can just sit and read leisurely. It's one where I really have to turn my brain on, and my brain has not been at its full capacity. I really need like the limitless pill right now because I am at the 38% mark with this book, so my goal might be to get to around the 60% mark within a week. That feels doable. I think this is a book that I'm going to drag out, but I think that that's for the best because I want to make sure that I'm really appreciating it while I read it because it's a really smart book and I don't want to miss things because I'm rushing through it just trying to finish it. Keep going through the physical ones. So this one I'm actually doing in tandem because I got it out from my library, and then Spotify has the audiobook available. And this one I kind of just picked up on a whim. I was just feeling a little like I stopped into the library. I was like, "Ugh, let me just like pick up a book. Let me just grab something off the shelves." Picked up Murder at Gull's Nest by Jess Kidd. Sorry, I'm blocking the author's name so that I don't reveal my library. And so Murder at Gull's Nest follows Nora Breen. She has recently left the convent. She's a nun to investigate the disappearance of her friend who left the convent before her. Her friend left due to some health reasons, so you're ill, so you go to the seaside. And her friend goes to the seaside and then she stops hearing from her. Nora shows up to the seaside and she is trying to investigate what happened to her friend while she was here, and everyone seems to be having secrets. And of course, very shortly in, if you couldn't guess from the title, there's a murder. It is not of her friend. At the point I'm in the book, her friend's just disappeared at this point, but a different character has been murdered. And we have to figure out how all of these pieces fit together. This is a book that's really taken me by surprise so far. Sometimes I feel a level of disconnect from older characters. I think just because I'm not at that stage of life, so I naturally relate to characters that are my own age more. But I am really loving Nora. She's having a real journey of self discovery, having left, her order, and she's in her 50s in this book. So from 18 to her 50s, she has lived one way of life. Oh, I have to like figure out how to be a person again and like live a more secular life now that I'm not a nun. She's also just really cheeky and like isn't afraid to kind of be unapologetically investigating things because she's like, I don't care. Like what do I have to lose? I'm at almost exactly the halfway point of this book. My goal for this week is to finish this book in its entirety, and I think that that is doable, and that would get me down to 7 current reads. Up next, we'll kind of take a look at my Kindle reads. So here's my Kindle. Here's my cute little Kindle cover that my mom got me with a fox on it. I'm reading 2 books on my Kindle right now. One is Sequel. I had never heard of this book or this series before I started watching people on YouTube talk about books. Since then, I feel like I hear everyone talk about it. So this year I finally was like, okay, I'm going to start this YA series from like over a decade ago. And I started the Raven Boys this year. Oh, I ate that up. It was so, so good. So I'm on book 2, The Dream Thieves. I had a little bit of a lull starting it. I think that was my own brain because I started it when I got back from Ireland. So, like, I was just having jet lag and being tired. And especially some of the early chapters with the character, the Gray Man in book 2, my brain just like wasn't following what was happening. And I think that was me. But I am loving the Raven Boys so far. I'm loving book 2. The general premise is we are following this girl Blue and these 4 boys from this preppy boarding school in West Virginia. And these boys who are on the hunt for this like ancient magic and this lore. Book 2 so far has introduced some plot points that I honestly didn't expect, and it's really cool. I obviously can't say too much because it's a sequel, but I'm really loving these characters. I'm really enjoying following them, and just like getting further into the series and understanding the hype. Okay, I'm at the 58% mark in this book. My Kindle says I have under 3 hours left to finish this book, so this is another one that I confidently think that I can finish it this week. The next book I'm reading, we had a booktube fave, now we got a book talk fave, is a book that I picked up because I thought I was going to be a hater. I just didn't think that like it was going to be for me, but I saw a lot of hype around it and I was like, I'll pick it up. And that is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Quicksilver is about this human girl who, I don't even want to say, I feel like just jump into it. Yeah, it's about this human girl who lives in a really poor part of her world, and there's this evil queen, and she does something that lands her in front of the queen, and then something happens while she's there, and now she's with some fae. Yeah, so she ends up working with this fae, and we're kind of figuring out what her mission is about to be right now. All we know is she's kind of unleashed something onto the world. I'm at 22%. My Kindle says I have 9 hours left. So maybe I'll make my goal to be also 60%. Next, I'm in the middle of two audiobooks. The first one is Sadie by Courtney Summers. I'm only 8% in, so that I think is going to be my last audiobook priority for the week. I'm going to finish Gold's Nest and then the one I'll talk about in a bit, and then Sadie will be my audiobook priority ranking. Sadie is about our main character, Sadie, whose sister goes missing, and there's a podcast element having to do with her disappearance. This is another one of those books that I don't want to know too much before going in, so that's about all the information I have from the first 8%, but I'm really enjoying the audiobook experience so far. I can see why it's highly recommended. I might make my goal to be to like also finish that, but if I can't, maybe I'll shoot for 60 to 75% completed. And then I just started yesterday, which was very silly of me, Work Nights by Erica Peplin. This is for a book club that I'm a part of, and I'm only like 3 chapters in, so I'm only at about like the 10% mark, but this is one that I do want to finish this week because the book club is next week, so I would love to have read it by book club time. And I've heard this one described as like Sex in the City meets Devil Wears Prada, and it's just supposed to be like a hot and silly summer book. So far, we're following this girl who works this corporate job that she doesn't like, and she has a crush on her younger coworker, but she also seems to just be like seeing a lot of people in the city, and she's pretty aimless. So we're just kind of following her navigating messy relationships and hating her job. And I'm just curious to see how it goes. This isn't a book I heard of before book club. This is one I go to at a local bookstore, and we typically vote for what book we want to read next month off of a sheet. I voted for the book that didn't win, so I'm not uninterested in this book. I'm committed to the book club. I have some friends going, so I'm going to read it, but this is one that I just didn't really intend to read. The last book that I'm in the middle of is a reread, and that is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is one of my favorite books that I've ever read. It has a really special place in my heart, and I have been really wanting my fiance to read it. He's not a huge reader, but he does enjoy a good story here and there. He's a big fantasy sci-fi reader, and this is not either of those. And I've been saying like, oh, you like video games, you should read it, because I also just think it's remarkable. And he hasn't picked it up yet, and so I said, you're going to read this book whether you want to or not. And so I'm reading a chapter aloud to him before bed, so that it will finally be read and he'll finally understand my love for the story and get to experience this beautiful story. So my goal for this is maybe that we'll get 2 chapters read this week. I'm intending this to be a long process just because like reading a full chapter aloud of an adult novel is more of a commitment than you would think. Or maybe you don't think that. Maybe I just went in thinking I could like read aloud really fast that I could just like speak at 2 times speed. But it has been really fun to like read this out loud together and like relive the story with another person. So yeah, that's my goal, is to read 2 more chapters with him this week. So that gets you kind of caught up on where I am in the 8 books that I'm currently reading. So we're going to see what gets done this week. We're going to see what gets accomplished. So I'll check in with you throughout the week. We'll see how it's going. And yeah. Okay, a little bit of a lighting change, but it's Monday evening. And Moosey and I wanted to give a little bit of a check-in. I did successfully complete my first book, and today I finished. Did you want to share? So today I finished Work Nights. I haven't quite landed on a rating for it yet. My initial reaction sits around a 3, but I don't know if it's going to go lower. Honestly, it was one of those books that I finished it, and I don't really know what the point of it was. I'm sure there was a point. I did just feel like I was reading a book. I felt like I was reading a book about a lot of people's realities, honestly, because it was just this woman going to work, dating, going to work, dating, wondering why she's dating these people, wondering why she's into these people. My animals are going crazy wrestling in the background right now, and I don't know if the microphone's picking it up. So if you can hear their scuffle, I'm not ready to expose my living room on this channel, so I'm not going to turn the camera around. But just know that they're going crazy. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Sit. No, don't follow her. Don't follow her. So, so Work Nights follows our main character, Jane, and she's kind of torn. At one point in the book, she's kind of torn between a more stable romantic connection and a more guaranteed future versus like the riskier and the more exciting connection. That's kind of really the only like tangible things you can grasp in the story, because in the rest of the book is just her being like just her day to day. Maybe someone who has a really corporate lifestyle would see themselves a lot in this and, you know, feel the reflection of all of the days blending together. So I guess that's the point, is, you know, it's a reflection of modern culture, but I did kind of read it and I didn't personally feel like I gained a lot from it. I don't know. It was just a book that I like didn't have a lot of thoughts on. And not because I wasn't present in reading it, but just because I just didn't feel super connected to it. I tend to end up having more of an appreciation for books post book club discussion. So I'm curious if next week I will come out with a different view of the book, but kind of my initial reaction was like, yeah, that was a book. I read it. That's kind of my Monday check-in. Yeah, so I might read a little bit more before bed, probably off my Kindle. And then tomorrow I have to go to jury duty. I got summoned. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, that's how the rest of my week is looking. Stop licking my books. So yeah, Monday, 1 book down, 7 more to go. We can do this. Do you have any closing remarks? What did you read today? What about you? What did you read today? Oh, now Moose has something to say as soon as Macaroni gets in the picture. Let's see, what did you have to read? What did you read today? I'm worried that Macaroni is anti-literacy. What do you have to say for yourself? That's what I thought. Last time I checked in was Monday evening. It's now Thursday evening. I have had one of the more interesting weeks of my life. So, didn't get too much reading done on Tuesday because I got called for my first ever jury duty. If you know, you know. That was a crazy day. But I was able to bring my book, my Kindle, with me and get about half an hour, 45 minutes of reading in before I got called into the courtroom. So that is good progress. I was reading The Dream Thieves, having some fun with the Raven Boys. And then I got happy hour after jury duty. Once again, if you know, you know. or The Raven Boys or The Dream Thieves. I am 67% done. My Kindle says I have less than 2 hours left, so I think I'm going to try and lock in tonight and finish it. All depends on my own self control, but that is the plan. That's what I'm going to try and do. Also, on my Kindle, I have Quicksilver, and I'm at the 25% mark, which is only about 3% further than where I was on Sunday. So, as far as audiobooks go, I've read like one more chapter of Sadie, and I'm on, I think I'm 11% in, but that was my, last priority audiobook for the week. And then Murder at Gull's Nest, I'm at the 90% ish point. I've got less than an hour left, but I can't give you any more details than that because I ran out of Spotify listening hours in the middle of a chapter. And so I think I'm going to try and steal my fiance's Spotify this weekend and finish Murder at Gull's Nest because I'm right at the climax of the book. So, arguably, the worst spot to lose your listening hours. I am really enjoying it so far. I think it's a solid 4 star. There's a few things that I just stand out to me in the writing. One example kind of being the author will introduce a point that feels like it's going to be like important information for later, but then it comes up again in the next chapter and is resolved. And so I feel like there's a level of intrigue that gets built and then immediately taken away. I really love this main character. I haven't been able to figure out the mystery yet, which is always great. And I've just been enjoying it. It's been a really like even keel read, I'll say. Yeah, our main character Nora is just really tongue in cheek, like, she's taken the habit off, she's letting her hair down and she's taken on the world. So it's just really fun watching her kind of come into her own as a character. As far as my 3 physical book reads, I have not picked up Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow this week. Just I've been too tired before bed to read out loud. I have not picked up Royal Assassin or Milkman since the weekend, but those are also the books that make me use my brain the most out of all of my current reads. And so I can kind of understand why I haven't picked them up. I've just been tired and have had one of the more interesting weeks of my life, like I've said. So I hope I get to pick some of those up maybe tomorrow or this weekend when I have some more free time. But yeah, that's kind of where I am with my reads. So it's Saturday now, Saturday at noon. And I forgot that I have a book club tomorrow. And I haven't started the book yet. So we are back up to being in the middle of 8 books. The silver lining is I only have to read half of the book for tomorrow. I don't have to read the whole thing. So today I'm going to be starting and reading half of Wild Dark Shores by Charlotte McConaughey. Goal after that is to finish Raven Boys, finish Murder at Gull's Nest, and read a little bit more of something else. So wish me luck. Okay, I have to speak my truth. It's already Tuesday of the next week. So what was intended to be kind of a 1 week challenge turned into a week and 2 days, but that's okay. I tried to film this final wrap up 4 times on Sunday. First time I was just rambling. My dog was making a bunch of noise. Actually took the whole video zoomed out all of the way. And then I was also wearing a strapless top. And then I took the next video too close so it didn't look like I had a shirt on. And then my phone died in the middle of the final video. You get what you get and you don't get upset. I'm filming this on Tuesday. The good news with that is that means that I was able to knock out a little bit of extra reading in the meantime. So that's a win. So I'm going to go over some of the things I did not succeed with, some of my progress, and then the success that I did have. So first up, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, I did not make any progress. I myself and my fiance just ended up being way too tired last week, so I didn't read any aloud to him. I'm not feeling too much pressure because this is something that we're doing together and, I want to cherish it. Plus, it's a reread for me, so I know what happens. So, yeah, no progress, but not really too bummed about that. I am bummed about the next book that I made zero progress in, Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. I didn't pick it up once. I think honestly I was just gravitating towards what would make me feel most accomplished. And based on the size of this book, I could read it for an hour and it would look like I made no progress. And every time I do pick it up, I feel really sucked in and I just love the world and the characters. It's so rich. There's always this week, there's always the rest of my life. it's getting read one way or another. I'm locked into this series. I want to read the whole thing. So bummed, but I'll get to it. Hey, if you had asked me on Sunday about this next book, if I had made any progress, I would have also said that I did not pick it up again. But I found out that my library had a copy of the audiobook available. Ended up doing a little bit of a tandem, and I got 47% into Milkman. And I'm so glad that I was able to pick this up again. I'm really enjoying the story. I'm really enjoying the overall commentary on the time. I'm at a really interesting point in the plot where I can tell something big is about to happen, and there's been some changes from where we started, which I get is a very vague statement, but this character has maybe made more changes. So I am enjoying my read so far, and I'm excited to continue it. So I got almost to the halfway point of Milkman. Some other progress I made it to about the 15% mark of Sadie. So not crazy progress, but I did get down to one audiobook left in my roster. So I know I'll have time to read that this week and just enjoy it, take my time with it. I also made it to about the 35% mark of Quicksilver, and I do unfortunately have to retract some of my positive statements. I went in thinking I was going to be a hater, and then I pivoted and I was like, "Oh, this is actually I'm enjoying this. I'm not really feeling like a hater." And slowly, like the hater hat is inching its way back on my head. There have just been some pieces of dialogue that really threw me for a loop. I knew that there was going to be explicit content in this book. I'm not opposed to explicit content, but this main character just says these things in the middle of scenes where it doesn't make sense to say them. And it's clearly the author trying to drum up some tension between the main character and the love interest, but it genuinely just doesn't make sense in the context of the conversation she's having. And I'm like, why is she saying these things? It just felt so out of left field. And there's also just been a little bit of some lazy world building, in my opinion. There's a few scenes where she walks into the library and asks the librarian, "Hey, why is this thing this way in this world?" And he just gives her a very textbook answer that I feel like normal people having conversations wouldn't speak that way. But I just prefer to get my world building through the character living in the world and experiencing things. So it's maybe I'm maybe a little bit more critical than when I started. But like I said, I did get to the 35% mark. I'm making good progress, and it is a pretty fun read. It's an easy read, so I'm not totally feeling negative about my reading experience. Now we have some wins to talk about. So I am part of a book club where we meet twice a month. First meeting in the month, we talk about the first half of the book. Second meeting of the month, we talk about the rest of it and pick our next book. I thought that this meeting was this upcoming Sunday, and it was 2 days ago. So on Saturday, I picked up Wild Dark Shore and I read the full first half of it, and I'm loving it. I love the writing. It's so immersive. The characters are really well fleshed out, and I'm just having a really enjoyable time. There's a lot of intrigue, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go next. So this one's kind of a net neutral because I didn't intend to start a new book, but I also read all I needed to read of it in kind of the time frame of this challenge, so it doesn't really add or take away anything. Another kind of dark horse is yesterday I randomly picked up the audiobook of The Island of Dr. Moreau and I started and finished it. So it was a pretty quick audiobook. It was only about 5 hours, and I listened on a pretty quick audio speed. I had some driving to do, so I knocked that one out pretty quick. I didn't love it. I felt just shy of neutral. I gave it about a 2.75. There was just some descriptions in there that maybe felt a little bit dated to me. And I can see what it's done for the genre of science fiction, and I definitely think it had, great commentary on the world around it. But as a book in and of itself, taking away its legacy, it's not one that I'm going to pick up again per se. And then, as you all know, I finished Work Nights a little bit over a week ago. I gave that one 3 stars. Saturday, not only did I read the first half of Wild Dark Shore, but I finished two books. I finished 2 books. Books. First, I finished The Dream Thieves, which is book 2 in the Raven Boys series. I didn't love it as much as I loved book 1, but I still gave it a 4-star. I love being with the characters. I love the atmosphere and the setting, and the magic was really cool. I wasn't expecting some of the magic that popped up in this book, and so I had a lot of fun reading about it and learning about it. Highly recommend the series. Definitely going to pick up book 3. I'm curious if on a reread I would end up rating this higher, because honestly when I started it I was really jet lagged, so it just took me a second to get used to the writing and process just what I was reading. And then lastly, I finished Murder at Gull's Nest. So this was another 4-star, and it was just a really solid murder mystery. It's got a really awesome protagonist, and I think it's really fun to follow her and see her come into her own as a new type of person in the world. And I think that it's a really solid mystery. I felt like I could follow some of the strings and guess some of the reveals as we got to like the 75-80% mark. But that's also the part of the book where you have the most information. That's the part where it's going to feel the most obvious, if it ever feels obvious. So I'm not really going to fault the book for that. I still enjoyed it. I still felt like it was a conclusion that made sense for the book. And I just think it's a really solid murder mystery. Okay, I'm sorry if the audio suddenly just got so much worse, but my little microphone just died. And like I said, this is take 5 of just this clip. So I'm just saying my piece and I'm finishing this video. So, kind of recapping the numbers. If we look at just the books that I was reading at the start of this little Clear My Roster challenge, I started with 8 and I fully finished 3, which brought me down to 5. But I made it to the halfway point or near the halfway point in a couple, and any new ones that I started, I either finished or got to the halfway point. So I'm pretty proud of that progress just because that's a lot of pages in 1 week. In terms of like how did I get here, I think honestly I had a kind of a stressful June and July, and so I just kept starting new things, looking for that dopamine hit of starting a new book. I just kept looking for what was going to really distract me or take my mind off things or suck me in, and mood reading out the wazoo. So I was like, well, maybe it'll be a murder mystery, maybe it'll be a anticipated sequel, maybe it'll be this fantasy, maybe it'll be that. And I just ended up feeling a lot more stressed than I started because I wasn't actually accomplishing anything or finishing anything. And I've gotten into this pattern before and it always ends up this way, so I'm doing it to myself. But I do think that this was a good challenge for just like slowing down, not worrying about what books I'm not getting to, and just focusing on what's in front of me and knocking those out. So I am ultimately glad that I did this. I hope you all enjoyed this kind of pseudo vlog. I'm not quite ready to start filming like B-roll of my life, but we'll maybe get there someday. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.